to the time today. So let's go to the next slide. So question to you guys that are here live, or to Chloe, you're the only one left. What is branding? So when you guys think of the word branding, or whoever's watching the recording, when you think of the word branding, what does that mean? Like, what comes to mind when you think of branding? Or another exercise here is think of your favorite artist, right? So whoever your favorite artist is, so for me, it would be Foo Fighters. So when you think of your favorite artist, so when I think of Foo Fighters, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Foo Fighters? Or I mean, your favorite artist. So when you think of your favorite artist, what's the first thing that comes to mind? When I think of Foo Fighters, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously Dave Grohl and how connected he is to the history of music, the musicianship, how supportive he is of other musicians, right? So that's kind of what comes to mind. So the first thing that comes to mind when you think of an artist, that's branding. Basically, branding is whatever you do on a consistent basis over and over again. That is a simple way to define branding. It's the first thing you think of when you think of a person. So if you are an artist and your goal is to be someone that is, I don't know, very positive and someone who does a lot of good in the world and someone that just tries to make the world better and is charitable, but you're constantly getting into bar fights and you're constantly in the news for brawls and everything, right? The first thing people are going to think of when they think of you is probably the bar fights and the brawls. So that becomes your brand, not all the good and the positive that you do. So basically, especially more in today's world with social media and everything, your behavior kind of influences your brand on what your brand is and who you are. So it's really important that what your brand, what you want your brand to be, what you want to be known for, is that you back that up with your actions, right? Or your artist and so on. So that's the simple way to define branding. So we're going to do in a brand audit, you're going to have to come up with an elevator pitch. So the reason we're going to do this elevator pitch exercise is as you start trying to look for opportunities for your artist or for yourself, the best way to get someone to pay attention is not just by the accolades or what your artist has accomplished, right? So if you meet someone in an elevator and you're like, oh yeah, my artist opened up for some big band at the Fillmore. That's cool, but what you really want to do is you want to hook someone and get them excited about the music and get them interested in the music and get them wanting to listen to the music. So I always say music is the last thing that matters until people hear it, and then it's the only thing that matters. So the goal is to lead people to the music. So if you have a brand new artist or you're an artist that's trying to quote unquote make it, right, or trying to get to the next level, you're trying to lead people to the music. And your elevator pitch and how you describe your music is one of the ways to get people to the music. So I've seen so many people describe their music as it's something very different. It's hard to describe. It's hard to put into a genre. And that answer is kind of a very common answer. And it's kind of, I mean, don't want to use the word boring, but it kind of is, because it's not unique. You want to come up with something unique that you tell people that describes your music or your artist's music that you work with to get their attention and get them interested to want to listen to the music, right? So that's the whole goal. So what we're going to do, once you grab a pen and paper, and we're going to make 3 columns on this pen and paper. And that's going to help you put together your elevator pitch. So if you're watching the recording, feel free to hit pause in between. You're going to be doing this on the brand audit. So this is going to be a good exercise. So the first column is going to be the classic column. You're going to make a list of 5 artists that are household names that are very well known. And again, so we go backwards a little bit. So whatever artist you choose to work with, whether it's yourself, whether it's some local band, if it's a new artist that you just discovered that's not signed yet, we're going to do this exercise based on that artist or based on yourself. Or if you, in terms of just this exercise, pick any band. You can do this really on anyone, right? So if you were to continue the trend of using Foo Fighters, you could do it with Foo Fighters also and create an elevator pitch for Foo Fighters. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna make a column of 5 artists who are household names that have something in common with your artist. So example for Foo Fighters, these are gonna be artists that are like been around for a very long time, like for decades, like for at least 10, 20 years. Not some brand new artist. Someone that you say the name, everyone's gonna recognize, right? So if I were to do this exercise based on Foo Fighters, those names would be like Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, AC/DC, right? So those would be my my classic artists, my classic column. Then you'll go to the next column, and that's your contemporary column. So you're gonna do the same thing you did before, but these are all brand new artists, artists that have maybe come up in the last 3 to 5 years, that are probably well known within the genre, but might not be well known to the masses yet. So an example for to continue to use Foo Fighters, this could be like Greta Van Fleet, Royal Blood, artists like that. So again, if you're into rock music, you're probably gonna know who Greta Van Fleet and Royal Blood is. But if you're not, you may not know who these artists are, right? So that's the kind of difference between the contemporary and the classic. The classic are artists that have been around for a long time that everyone's gonna recognize, and contemporary are newer artists that maybe only people that are into that genre are gonna know. So you're gonna make a list of those artists. Then, the next column, why did this not switch? What happened here on my slides? Huh. My slide didn't carry over. You make a change real quick. So category 3, you're gonna make a list of words and phrases that describe your artist's music. All right. So you're gonna make a list of words and phrases that describe their music. So if I were to continue to use Foo Fighters, I could put hard rock, I can put loud guitar riffs, I could put, I don't know, screaming, in your face, passionate, I don't know, whatever words come to mind, right? So you're just gonna make a giant list of words and phrases that describe your artist's music. So that's column number 3. So column 1 is the classic column, column 2 is the contemporary column, and then column 3 is the words and phrases. Oh, weird. I guess that one column copied twice. Anyway, all right, so, and that's the wild card column, right? That's column 3. What we're gonna do then you're gonna take all 3 of your columns, you're gonna mash them up, and you're gonna come up with an elevator pitch, how you're gonna describe your music. So your elevator pitch has to include something from column 1, something from column 2, and include multiple things from column 3. So here's an example. So this is a friend of mine's band out of New Orleans, and I describe them as a blend of old school Red Hot Chili Peppers meets Highly Suspect with a New Orleans flavor. So column 1 will be Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? That's the classic column. Highly Suspect would be column 2. And then my wild card column, column 3, is old school New Orleans. I had funk in there, which is how I came up with like Red Hot Chili Peppers, because like old school Red Hot Chili Peppers was more funk music than mainstream rock. So that's kind of how I described this artist's music. So that would be an elevator pitch, right? So if I were to meet a person in an elevator or in a quick conversation and I were to describe my friend's music, I would say this, but their music is a blend of old school Red Hot Chili Peppers meets Highly Suspect with a New Orleans flavor. And hopefully that gets someone's attention where they're like, wow, like I need to check this band out. This kind of sounds really up my alley, right? So here's another example. This is for my friend Emily Kopp. I describe her music as a Fleetwood Mac style, free-spirited singer-songwriter with a catchy Ingrid Michaelson-like pop sound and a rock and roll attitude. So a little bit longer, but it still works, right? So Fleetwood Mac is the contemporary column. That's the old school classic artist that hopefully everyone recognizes. And then Ingrid Michaelson will be the newer, more contemporary. And then in my wildcard column, I had free-spirited singer-songwriter, catchy pop music, rock and roll attitude, and I had a few others like adventurer, free-spirited, and so on. So that's kind of like what the elevator pitch mashup is. So let me know if you guys have any questions on that. And now we're going to go on to the rules of branding. Any Game of Thrones fans in here? So let's take a look at some rules that help you build a good brand. So when you conduct your brand audits and you look at the brands of the artists you're going to work with for this assignment, you're going to kind of analyze these things and see how they can improve their brands, what they can do better, and so on. So the first rule, take a big sip of water. So the first rule is to narrow your focus. So when you're first starting out, you want to be really dialed into what your focus is for your artist. You can't be everything to everyone. Like if you want to be like the next Jay-Z and you want to have, I don't know, a clothing brand and do hip hop music and do all these other ventures that Jay-Z and people like that do, it's going to be very confusing in the beginning, and it's going to be very challenging and difficult because you don't really have a team yet. You really don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the money to launch something like that. It's always best to focus on one thing first and become really great at that one thing. And then in the future, once you're known for the thing you're trying to be known for, then in the future, you can expand from that and build your team on that. And you can narrow your focus on like one or two things, right? So if you're an artist and you're also creating some kind of content, your content could be a weekly podcast, could be a weekly YouTube series, it could be whatever it is, right? You can have some kind of content that you're using to help build your brand, help build your followers and get people to know who you are, and hopefully that will lead them to the music, right? So again, you're always just trying to lead them to music. So you're just really using the podcast or the YouTube series or a blog or whatever it is to get people to listen to your music, which is really your main focus. So again, you want to narrow your focus to one or two things and really just focus on that. Then you want to become a leader in your category or create a new category. So your category can be like a style within your genre. Like you're doing something that's a little different, that's unique, that stands out, right? That doesn't sound like everyone else. So if you're listening to the charts on Spotify or you listen to the Billboard charts, there's a lot of consistency there, a lot of consistent sounds. And to have a brand that stands out, you want to be a little bit different. You want to do something that nobody else is doing. So someone that's doing that really well right now is artist Lizzo, right? She's really standing out. Her music is very fun. It's very positive. It's not as like serious as a lot of other artists are. Her topics, her lyrics are different. She's a body positive artist. Is confident in herself. So she's like very different, right? And the timing for what she's doing is really great and it really stands out. The music's obviously really good too. So that's one of the important things. And we'll get to that in a second. But you want to become a leader in your category, or you create a new category. So you find something that people, like a trend that's just starting and that people are paying attention to, and kind of jump within that trend and become the leader with it, right? By outworking everyone else. Or you kind of just start something new and stand out that way. So that's leader of a category. Next thing is just consistency. So like we talked about in the beginning, your brand is what you do on a consistent basis. So the key is to be consistent. Whatever you're doing, you want to be doing it over and over and over and over and over again until you're known for what you're doing. And you want to continue doing that over and over and over again. Then the consistency becomes even more important once you or your artist that you work with is known. And the next thing is quality. That's probably one of the most important parts of building a very strong brand, right? So if you're a singer-songwriter and that is what your brand is, that's what you want to be known for, it's really important to consistently write songs, to be writing with other people, to be working on your craft. At the end of the day, quality is going to always stand out. Whoever the best artist is, if someone has really, like, there's a quote from Dave Grohl: if you have really great songs and you play them really great live, it doesn't matter if you're playing the side stage of Bonnaroo or you're playing a hole in the wall down the road, right? People are going to notice. People can tell when someone is really good. And the only way you become really good is by putting in lots and lots and lots of hours. I had a really good friend that was a singer-songwriter. And 4 years ago, him and I had like what do we call it? We had a meeting, a consulting session. And I asked him, I was like, hey, you want to be a singer-songwriter? How many songs have you written in the last year? And he said 5. 5 songs in 1 year. I was like, man, you're my friend and I care about you, but if you want to be a great singer-songwriter, that's not going to cut it. You can't be writing 5 songs in a year. You should be writing 5 songs a week. Write a song every single day. Every single day, write about whatever comes to your mind. Just start writing. And him doing that has really excelled his career, and he now really has gone to writing a song every single day. And he's co-writing with artists, all over his town. He travels to Nashville consistently and writes with artists there. He won a songwriter contest. So the consistency will help improve the quality. So we really want to make sure that you're the best at what you do. And that's how you build a strong brand. And in today's world, of course, visuals are very important, right? You want to make sure you're using the best possible photos you can. You want to use the best possible graphics, the best possible videos. And the key thing here is to not let the quality of the visuals discourage you. So if you can't afford like a super good camera or can't afford a studio, the most important part of building a brand is to get going. Start that consistency. And the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. The more you make little videos that you put on YouTube, and the more you start editing those and watch videos on editing, the goal should be to become 1% better every time you put out a new video, every time you put out a new song or a new podcast or whatever it is that you're putting out, right? You always want to get just 1% better. And that's the same with your visuals. So if you're posting photos on Instagram or on social media and you don't like the quality of your photos, you don't like the graphics that you're using, and get 1% better every time. Start working with Photoshop. Start working with different ways to shoot photos, right? Different lighting, different types of cameras. If all you have is your cell phone to take photos, just something as simple as wiping your cell phone lens every single time before you take a picture, that already makes the quality better. And then experimenting with filters and then uploading your photo to Photoshop and working on some editing. Those are ways your photography, what you put out there on Instagram and social media, that's the way that will get better every single time, right? Then the next way to build a strong brand is to collaborate with others. So find others within your genre or your artist genre and collaborate with those artists. Create songs together, create YouTube videos together, do podcasts together, do co-writes. And you always want to kind of write or collaborate at your level or slightly higher, right? It's going to be really hard if you're doing like a YouTube series and you have 100 subscribers and then you reach out to someone who has 1 million subscribers and say, hey, let's collaborate. We'll do a video for your channel and a video for my channel. Like, you're just going to get ignored when you do that. So the goal should be to work with people at your level or slightly higher, or have something to offer people that are at a higher level, right? So things to offer could be money. It could be maybe you're a really good photographer and you can offer free photography sessions. Maybe you're a producer and that's something they need and you can produce their songs for free. Just have some kind of value to offer to those people when you start collaborating. So that is that rule. Then the next one second again. The next one is just to humanize your brand. People love brands that have a personality. People love brands that they can connect with. So one of my favorites is Michael Franti. He had a really popular song a few years ago that most of you will probably remember or recognize, but So he's can be kind of looked at as like a one-hit wonder, but he's not. He's still selling out venues that are 1,000 to 2,000 capacity all over the country. He's selling 2,000 plus tickets all over the world. He's still playing festivals. He's even headlining festivals. So he's got a very powerful brand and a very loyal following, and his brand is very humanized. So one of the things you're going to do in your assignment is you're going to create like brand categories. So what are, and these brand categories help tell your story, right? Help you craft a unique story. So it's not just the music that matters, but it's also the person or the band or the story behind the music. So Michael Franti is there's a picture of him and his wife. Like he's posts a lot about his wife. He's really big into good, strong, positive relationships. The next picture is him hugging a fan. He's I call those fan love. So he's really big into being just very appreciative and thankful for the people that support you. The next one is him doing yoga, right? So he's big into doing yoga. A lot of artists these days do like meet and greet experiences where you go and you meet your artist, you take a photo with them, or you do something fun with them. So Michael Ferrante's meet and greet experience is a yoga class. You go to the music venue or the festival, and he has a space picked out where the meet and greet experience is you do yoga with Michael Ferrante. So that's a big part of his brand, right? And then there's a picture of him with kids. So giving back to less fortunate kids is really important to him. And then there's just a picture of him playing in front of an audience. That's like another thing, him playing live, right? So if you were to look at like his Instagram channel, his 5 categories that he posts about the most are relationship or marriage, fan love, so appreciation of your fans, yoga, giving back, and performing. Those are like his 5 categories that he posts about the most. So if you think about you or your artist that you work with, you want to think about what are 5 categories that you can consistently post about over and over again when you're posting on social media. And it doesn't mean to only post in those 5 categories. You can still post other things, but you want 80% of your posts. So 80% is like from the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. You want to make sure that 80% of your posts fall within one of those 5 categories. And that really will help build your story. All right. So that's kind of the rules on branding. A couple of tips on storytelling. So when you're trying to figure out what is your story, right? When an artist is first starting out, they a lot of times struggle with finding their story unique or finding it interesting. So, and you don't always have to be the person that, like on America's Got Talent, we see people that, I don't know, were born without hearing and they sing on perfect pitch, right? Or they were born and they never talked their entire life, and all of a sudden at age 20, they started singing and they have this amazing voice when they like never talked in their life. Like it doesn't need to be anything dramatic like that. That's cool, that's amazing, but there's a lot of other cool like things that make your story interesting that people can relate to. That's the most important thing. Like having really good music that people enjoy, and then having a story that they can relate to. And those are the artists really that they support the most. Like yesterday, I did a show with this comedian the last 2 days called Heather McMahon. She had 3 sold out shows. She's known for all of the funny stuff she does on Instagram, but she's been a comedian for a long time. So for 15 years, she's been a comedian. So before even Instagram existed, and she just worked on her craft over and over and over and over, and just got really good at comedy. And then what she does on Instagram, like her story, how she shares her story, just really helped her audience connect with her. And she's built a massive following around that. She's sold out her entire tour. We just did 3 sold out shows this past weekend. And it's awesome. Like she's a star. She's going to be probably a really big comedian. And a lot of you, if you haven't heard of her yet, you'll probably start seeing her name very soon. So, and then, again, but the consistency about doing things over and over again is just building a really good brand and doing it over a long period of time. They always say the way you become an overnight sensation is by working really, really hard for 10 years, and then you make it overnight, which really there's no such thing as an overnight sensation. I mean, it does happen, but that's like the 1% of the 1%. So the chances of that are really low, right? So if you work on these things, work on building a really strong brand, having great music, having a great live show, those are the steps. Those are the ways your artist is going to become known. Those are the ways your artist is going to get the attention of people in the music industry. And that's how you start building your team. So again, when you start trying to think of like crafting your story, figuring out your 5 categories that you talk about the most, right? These are some things that can help figure out what those categories are. It could be something about your hometown, where you're from, right? Maybe you're from another country and that's something you're really passionate about and you love sharing about that and talking about that. It could be about culture. It could be about lifestyle, value and beliefs, experience, challenges you've overcome, or other skills and talents and relationships. So those are all the different things that can help craft your story. I'm going to skip this one. And then as you start crafting your story, it's good to make a timeline. So from when you were born until now, right? Or from when your artist was born until now, and kind of just map out big events that happened within that. When you write songs, or when your artist writes songs, right? What is the story behind those songs? What are those songs about? Why did they write about those songs? So those are some things to think about. Or you could create a persona, right? So if you are like super creative or your artist is super creative and you feel like they don't have much of a story yet and you rather build a persona around it. So build like a character and then build a brand around that character. That's something that works too, right? There's lots of artists that have done that. Like Marilyn Manson, Lady Gaga, Madonna, Slipknot, Alice Cooper, Kiss, right? There's so many successful artists that have created characters and have built a story behind those characters. You can do something like that too. It doesn't have to be that. Another thing that can help craft your story, if it's a band, you can think about all of these things, right? Just about your band. So how would you fill in all of these bubbles or buckets and start figuring out what your band's background is, and then maybe figuring out what is your band story, what are the consistencies between all the band members. When you play live or you've shown people your music, what kind of feedback do they get, right? Like what kind of feedback do you get, or what does your artist get? What are people saying about the music? That can help craft your story. And then always remember that your story is always an ongoing narrative. So it might be this today, but as you play more shows, as you go on the road and you build more experiences, the narrative is going to continue and it's going to continue to expand. So your story is always evolving. So just keep that in mind as well. All right. What is this? Oh, yeah. And then just the last thing on branding is to always listen to your audience, listen to your fans. Of course, you want to do things for you, and that's kind of maybe the reason why you or your artist has started, because there's something that they want to share, a very specific message. But it's also always important to listen to the audience and supporters. So like a Tony Robbins quote that I love is, it's don't fall in love with your business, fall in love with your audience, because your audience are the ones that are going to support your business. And if you kind of use the feedback from your fans or your audience and help use that feedback to develop your craft, your music, your live show, that will really help build a powerful brand, and that will help build a very, very loyal following. All right. Let's see how much time we got. 13 minutes. There's one very specific thing I want to cover. I'm going to jump over to here. One of the things on your brand audit is going to be the artist ID, right? So the artist ID is going to be a very, very important assignment you're going to do. So with the artist ID, let me see. I don't know if Chloe is still on here, but if you are, let me know if you can see this. So let me go to this word. Oh, whiteboard. There we go. Perfect. Sorry, still learning how to use Canvas, but all right. So you have 3 categories, right? You have your A-list artist, Then you have your emerging, heritage, descending artists. And then you have your, cool, Chloe, can you see this whiteboard that I'm writing down right now? Awesome, cool. You have your A-list artists, your emerging, heritage, and descending artists, and then you have your local/regional artists. So those are your three categories, right? So the artists you work with for your brand audit, or any artist, you're gonna basically make a list of artists that are similar in these three different categories. And your A-list, so let's say, I don't know, let's say I have an artist that sounds like Foo Fighters, just to stay consistent with what I've been doing. So A-list artists, these are artists that are, if I were to put parameters around it, they're playing 2,000 capacity venues and plus, right? So if I were to make a list of A-list artists that are similar to Foo Fighters, that could be Metallica, that could be Greta Van Fleet, could be Guns N' Roses, and so on, right? And then emerging, heritage, or descending artists. So emerging is an artist that's kind of on the rise, that is moving up to that next level. Heritage artists or artists that have been around for a very long time, but they never really made it to that next level. And then descending artists are artists that have kind of been at that level, and now they're kind of like on the decline, right? So a way you can find these artists, let me see if this works. I'm starting to like this. So if you way to find these artists, so here I have Buddy Guy pulled up, most of us listening on a big Buddy Guy kick. The way to find artists also is if you go on Spotify and click on this, fans also like, and there's a bunch of artists that are similar to Buddy Guy, right? So if I was using Foo Fighters as the example, so going here, it's Foo Fighters, click on that, click on fans also like, and here's a bunch of artists, right, that are similar to Foo Fighters. So Bush, for example, could be like on my descending list. Soundgarden could be on my heritage list. Stone Temple Pilots could be on my heritage list. Alice in Chains is actually would still probably be on the A list, and so on. And the lower you get, the smaller and newer are the artists. So I could like click on Wolfmother, who's like a newer artist, and then go to fans also like. And now you're gonna go get a little deeper on like lesser popular artists, to kind of really figure out who are some similar artists. So that's kind of how that assignment or that exercise works. Let me go back to the whiteboard. So really, you're just going to make a list of, for the assignment, you're going to do 5 artists for each category. And I mean, really for your, I don't know, for your artist career or for your career, you want to have this list to be as massive as possible, right? And then your local, regional, like these are going to be artists that are in the same hometown as you or your artist, or they're within that same region, and they're kind of at the same level. Like they're just starting out. They're just playing clubs. They're playing, you know, playing with other local bands. They might open up for a national act here and there. They're playing within the region, but super DIY. They may not even have a team yet. They're still doing it on their own. Those are like your local and regional artists. I'm gonna jump back to the slides. Where are my slides? All right. So the kind of whole goal of this exercise is, when you're an artist starting out, or when you're an artist that you work with is just starting out, you kind of want to progress along the bottom to the top. So you want to play shows. So this will help you figure out who can you play shows with, right? So you play shows with local and regional artists first, really build your following, and then you move up to the next category and start playing with artists that are emerging, descending, and declining. And then really not until you're emerging, you're probably not going to play with A-list artists. Just being super real. That is very rare. When A-list artists take other artists on tour, they're usually artists that are in the same management company or same label, or same agency. It's very, very rare that a local or regional artist is opening for A-list artists. That usually happens when the A-list artist is doing a contest and they want a local band to open up for them, or Really, honestly, these days, A-list artists are also doing a lot of evening wits. So evening with meaning they're not really have anybody opening for them. It's just that artist. So Rolling Stones, when they played in Miami, it was just them. It was just Rolling Stones, an evening with the Rolling Stones, right? So opening up for A-list artists is very hard. Another benefit to this list. So if you really wanted to, I don't know, take things to the next level. So let me open up a spreadsheet here real quick. Kind of like that I can do this. All right, so if I were to open up a spreadsheet, so let me share this blank spreadsheet. So if I were to open a spreadsheet, right, you can do something like artist in column 1 or column A, and you put agency, agent, management, company, manager, record label. And then we can do hometown, right? Where are they from? And then we can put website. So basically what's going to happen as you start putting people in this artist column, right? So if I put, I don't know, Foo Fighters, Metallica, Greta Van Fleet, and so on, as I start putting these artists down, right? Forgot one important thing. Yeah, one more row in here. Yeah, I meant this row to be in here, and then delete this. So then the second one would be your category. What category are they in? So of course, Foo Fighters being A-list, Metallica being A-list, Greta Van Fleet being emerging. So basically what you're gonna do, you make this giant list, right? So again, this is like the real life application. So you make a list of 5 for each category for the brand audit, but for real life application, where the way this will be beneficial, let's say you have 50 artists on there, 15 to 20 for each category. Then you're gonna go in here, you're gonna type in what the agency are they on, right? I'm just making agencies up right now. These are not the actual agencies. Actually, I think. And CAA, right? So I'll put the agencies, then I start typing the agents on here, I start typing the management companies, the labels, and the longer your list is, the more consistencies you're gonna see. You're gonna see, so if you're a hip-hop artist that's just starting out, you're gonna notice that a lot of hip-hop artists are on the same agency, working with the same 5 to 10 agents, right? So your goal should be, let me go back on my slides. So the goal should be, as you start figuring out who you should open for, who you want to build relationships with, right? So if you want to open up for Kendrick Lamar one day, and the agent for Kendrick Lamar is the same agent as these 5 to 10 emerging artists or heritage artists or descending artists, you really want to open up for those artists that are just starting out on that agent's roster. And when you open for those smaller artists on their roster, you really want to go all out, like promoting. And we'll talk about touring and how often to play later on in the class, but you want to go all out promoting for those types of artists, and really build a relationship with that agent. So when time goes on, so let's say you're based in Miami and you open up for one of their artists in Miami and you sell 300 tickets, then you tell that agent, hey, next time you have someone in Miami, let me know. I'd love to open for them again and sell 200 tickets again. So you do it again the second time, right? And the third time, tell the agent, hey, I'd like to try it in Orlando and Miami next time. So next time you open for someone in Orlando and Miami, try to sell at least 100 tickets to each, and so on. You start building on that. And before you know it, you're opening up in the whole entire region on a tour, or you might be on a tour, or you might get an agent that now pay attention to you because you've worked hard for their artists. You've really helped develop their artists also in your city, in your region. And that's kind of how you start building relationships with agents and artists. So that's the artist ID. So I think that will help build a strong foundation. You're having a solid brand, having a story and figuring out what your story is, and figuring out the 5 categories that you talk about the most, right, when it comes to you or your artist brand, and then creating an artist ID and figuring out who are all similar artists that you can not just open up for, but collaborate with, connect with, build relationships with. It's a relationship business, and that's really the most important thing when it comes to the industry. And we back up to one more slide. This slide, so when you go to your book, just become familiar with all of these people on the artist team, really the manager, the agent, the business manager, label, publishing, publicist, and so on. And we'll talk about more about these next time, and definitely go through the book, and whatever will be on the quiz, which will be based on what Ari talks about in the book when it comes to the artist team. And we'll cover more of that next time. But Chloe, you're the only one here. Do you have any questions or thoughts about anything before we sign off? Awesome. Thank you for joining the live session. Anyone has any questions, please reach out to me on Canvas and start looking for your assignments to be available starting sometime tomorrow afternoon. And with that, go see shows, meet people, make stuff, have a great Sunday, and I'll talk to everyone very soon.